Okay, so we are continuing our section 2.6 on the quadratic formula. So yesterday we were introduced to the quadratic formula, and today we are going to do some more practice with it. So our learning target is, I can solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So let's define that quadratic formula. I'm just going to write it down here, some room down here. Quadratic formula is to solve a quadratic equation for x, and it is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So there is our quadratic formula. All right, so when you are using the quadratic formula, let's review our success criteria here. First, you need to check to make sure that this equation is in standard form. So standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So let's check that. Ax squared plus bx plus c. We're good to go there. So now we can go to step 2, determine the a, b, and c. So here's our a, b, c. So a is 2, b is 6, and c is 3. Now we're ready to substitute our a, b, and c into the quadratic formula. So that's our step 3 for our success criteria there. So x equals negative b, so negative 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 6 squared, minus 4 ac, so times 2 times 3, all over 2a. So 2a is 2 times 2. All right, now here comes the tricky part, simplifying. So to simplify, we're going to start by simplifying the easy stuff. So the easy stuff would be out here. Sometimes it's negative, negative. When it's negative, negative, we turn it to a positive, but not in this case. It just stays negative 6 plus or minus square root. I'm going to take care of that square root in just a second. And then do 2 times 2 is 4. All right. So now I want to find what's inside the square root. And yesterday we talked about how that is called the discriminant, and we're going to look at the discriminant more closely in future lessons. But anyway, so let's always start with the squared term. So order of operations says do exponents first. So 6 squared is 36. And then I'm going to do negative 4 times 2 times 3. So negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. All right, now I can take care of this subtraction. 36 minus 24 is 12. So 36 minus 24 is 12. Bring everything else down. And now at this point, I need to check to see if I can simplify the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of 12 and I'm going to make a factor tree for it. So 2 times 6 and then 2 times 3. I have a pair of 2's here, so the 2's are coming outside, singles stay in. So I'm going to continue down here. Negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root 3 all over 4. And then lastly, to simplify, I'm just going to reduce. I can reduce everything by 2. So final answer, negative 3 plus or minus square root of 3 over 2. All right, you pause the video and try this next one on your own. right, let's see how you did. So step 1, check for standard form. Ax squared, bx, c, we're good to go. Now label your a, b, c. Now we're going to substitute it in to the quadratic formula. Minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative, negative makes a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. Now we're ready to simplify in here. Always start with the exponent. So negative 2 squared would be 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Then negative 4 times 3 is 12. Negative 12 times 7 is negative 84. Then I can do my 4 minus 84 here. 4 minus 84 is negative 80. All right, now at this step, we're ready to see if this square root can be simplified. And then I notice that it's a negative square root. So first I need to change this to an imaginary number. So the square root of negative 80 becomes a square root of 80i. Now I can pull my 80 to the side and make my factor tree. All right, and then I'll circle my pairs. I have 2 pairs of 2's, and that 5 is going to stay inside. So 2 times 2 is 4. Leave the 5 inside. And then I can reduce by 2. So x equals 1 plus or minus 2 square root 5i over 3. And that would be your final answer there. All right, so let's take a look at this next example. So in the previous lesson, we talked about factoring, and we learned how to solve a quadratic using factoring. So let's compare the two methods. So the method we learned first was factoring, and then our new method we just learned is the quadratic formula. Let's compare them and see which one you prefer. So let's look at the quadratic. So I'm going to go ahead and have you pause the video here and try that on your own so you can have a little more practice with that. All right, so let's check your answer here, see how you did with that. I labeled my ABC, now I'm ready to substitute it in. Substitute it into the formula. And now I'm ready to simplify. Now I can add inside there, inside the square root. And I'm going to take that 529, and then that ends up being a perfect square of 23. Then I have 7 plus 23 divided by 12, so 30 divided by 12, which reduces to 5 halves. And then 7 minus 23 is negative 16 over 12, which reduces to negative 4/3. All right, so that is solving it with the quadratic formula. Let's take a look at factoring. So this is a trinomial, and the a term is greater than 1. So we're going to use that factor by grouping method. Go ahead and pause the video and try this on your own. All right, let's check it. So to factor a trinomial when a is greater than 1, we're going to multiply 6 times negative 20. which is negative 120. And then we're going to find the factors of negative 120 that add to negative 7. And that would be, after some work, we would find that that's 8 times negative 15. 8 times negative 15 is negative 120, but 8 plus negative 15 is negative 7. So I'm going to replace negative 7 with 8x and negative 15x. Then I'm ready to group my terms. At this point, we're going to look for a GCF. So the GCF of the first group would be 2x. And the GCF of the second group is negative 5. Our common factor there is the 3x plus 4, and then I have 2x minus 5 for my other factor. Now it's factored, so now we can go ahead and set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So subtract the 4 and then divide by 3. Add the 5, divide by 2, and it's solved. So notice we get the same answer here, 5 over 2 and negative 4 over 3. So under, in the private comments of Google Classroom, I want you to tell me which method do you prefer? Which method do you like better? The quadratic formula or factoring? All right, that's all I have for you today. So go ahead and answer that question. Which method do you prefer? Quadratic formula or factoring? And then go ahead and complete the assignment.